Welcome back to another episode of The Crossroads, a weekly financial show for our generation. And for the listeners, welcome back to the Long Game Podcast. On this week's episode, we are joined by Taylor Simpson, who is the founder and CEO of the Halo app, which is a community micro-lending platform. And to kick us off, just so listeners have a little context, why don't we start off with telling us a little bit about your background, your story, and what led you to starting Halo.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm very excited to meet your audience and share, what we're building. But I'm just a human, man. I'm a regular human that wants to do some extraordinary things for everyday people. I feel like we're forgotten about, and it kind of started there. I really wanted to make an impact in my life and in the lives of the people around me. And financial trouble seemed to be a common theme. Just a reoccurring sort of narrative for all of us, no matter where we're at, no matter where our backgrounds are. So became really passionate about just providing a solution that everyday people could use in the money space. And I am not in this space at all. I didn't have a business background. I didn't have a financial background. I'm like a creative by trade. I'm an architect, or I was an architect prior to this. I worked for an architecture firm for about 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I dropped it all and started failing miserably for the next 7 years. And somehow things completely turned around, and now we're here.
So let's talk a little bit about like the story of how you came up with this idea, and then also just like what the product is.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, it's truly simple. I was, like I said, I worked for a firm. We were doing the World Expo. I was in Milan, Italy. I had never even fathomed like traveling, to Italy at that young age. It wasn't even on my radar. And somehow I had gone in the company and they allowed me to be there. And I started posting some Instagram pics. They're still on my Instagram if you follow, me. I'm the Halo Taylor. So I keep that just to keep sort of a timeline of this journey. But on that same pic that I posted, I think it's my second or third, somebody from school at Ball State University reached out, and we just, we chatted for a bit, just a bunch of nonsense. And then, he sort of broke down and just said like, man, I'm really struggling. And, kind of clearly you're not, which is fine to say, but if you could just like cash at me a couple $100, man, it would save my life. I'm about to get kicked out of my apartment. And to me, the first thought was like, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for being vulnerable. And just like, this was probably really tough for you. That was the only thing I was kind of thinking about. Like, man, thank you for trusting me to kind of pour it out there. And I sent him the money. He sent 350 back. And just to break down both sides of our marketplace, if anyone has ever invested anything, 300 with a return of $50 in 2 weeks is the most extraordinary financial return you'll ever receive. And the thought there was like, whoa, what would happen if it was that easy, truly to give to somebody or lend someone money and to make a little bit back on an app, just like Uber, just like Airbnb, just like these other marketplaces, except, what would the world look like if that was money? And it started there. And, of course, first thing you do as an entrepreneur is you just jump in and say like, well, clearly someone else is doing this. Like, clearly there's just like, Google has a lending program or Facebook. And all I saw was that marketplace lending is this brand new concept that is changing the world. Lending Club and Prosper were these just gigantic hockey sticks that were just like, whenever you need a debt consolidation loan, get away from the bank a little bit and let's like humanize it. Yeah. There were always these like 20,000 plus things. And I was thinking like, what if I don't need a better solution to a car loan? Like, what if I literally, have a car and I just need to change my tire? Or like, what if I'm not trying to, SoFi is like the killer right now in this space, but like, what if I'm not refining my like student loan? What if I didn't even go to school, right? Yeah. What if I'm a college kid, what if I just need books? And so there was nobody in that small dollar space. And I just fell in love with it. It's every day, every bit of research, I'm the cat that will just burst into the barber shop and say like, I have an idea. Can you all listen to me, please? And I've always been that guy. And that's like my only skill set. So when I say I'm not business, I'm a creative by nature, and I'm just like a bullish marketer, just like leave it all on the line kind of guy. And just people continuously just say like, wow, man, I would use that. Like, oh man, I would use that. And then it went from I would use that to I need this, man, because like I use payday loans. And so you'll
Yeah.
hear this a lot, like this story of how awful like banking is for
Yeah.
70% of the country. I mean, literally 70% of the country. We don't have to get into the historical context of like redlining and how people just have never even seen a credit card or a credit limit and just have to rely on either literally having it, as disposable income or savings, or using, what predators, attack people with, like payday loans, pawn shops, cash advance, cash checking. I mean, all of that industry is borrow 400.
Let's go into that a little bit more, because I think like from our side, and maybe of some of our audience or people that we know are pretty privileged. So like for a lot of people that never grew up around this, like we had Tyrone Ross on here, and he's really been able to talk about this perspective and how that is why underrepresented people understand crypto a little better. And we're not necessarily have to go down the crypto rabbit hole, but like why does this really
We can always go down that rabbit hole.
I think we need to educate people on why this exists, because for most people coming from a privileged background, you're just like, well, why would I need an advance on $300? Like either somebody's never going to be able to pay it back because they don't have that money, or like, why do you need short-term money? Like, I think that people will be super confused just at that part of the need.
It's interesting because everyone needs short-term needs. Like literally 25% of the country has the savings, right? Like if you just imagine, like if you have $1,000 plus in savings, like you're the ultra privileged. And obviously that goes way up. Some people have hundreds of thousands, right? But like you have $1,000 plus, you're in the 25%. 75% don't have it, and about half of that 75 are privileged because banks help, like credit card swipes our loans. And I think that's like the big barrier that we try to address. Like, no, like you're in that same bubble, but like maybe, banks have given you a credit card with a limit that you can swipe if you don't have the cash to just buy something. Christmas time, right?
So this is a great alternative to a credit card for somebody who's like, okay, maybe I barely have a surplus a month, or it's $50. I'm driving home, two tires pop, it's going to be $500. Okay, well, I know I either swipe a credit card, pay 25% interest. If I don't have a credit card, I'm screwed.
Yep.
Or the option is, hey, over 10 months, or 11 months now, I can pay you that extra $50 a month and pay this off, but still be able to get this fixed and not be like, I don't have a car.
Yeah. I mean, let's dive into the, like, if I don't have it or if I don't have credit, I'm screwed. So for a lot of the country, like payday loans is the bank for the community. Financial deserts, like there's no banks in these communities. They're literally just gas stations that offer some services, and like these payday loans, which everyone sees, and there are more payday loan centers than McDonald's and Starbucks combined. So they're just everywhere. Wow. And literally the deal for them in national average is you go in, you hand them a bunch of stuff. There's no tech here. So like you literally hand them a pay stub, you hand them a check for the amount that you need, et cetera, and they cash it in 2 weeks. And it's 400% interest. So that's the reality for national average. You borrow 400, you pay back 1,400. So $1,000 in fees is the national average. And there's no bridge. There's really nothing in between that marketplace and credit card swipe.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Okay.
Devastating, man. So like, I was, my family, deep rooted all over the place, but like my family's experienced it. I have experienced it. I was blessed that I grew up in a very safe household, but this entrepreneurship venture took me on a curve. I didn't want to. I'm kind of that guy that just likes the pain, so I didn't want to talk to my parents about it. I had a house, like I had a house 3 years out of college, just trying to follow the track my dad gave me. But like, I was using pay loans and like had the repo guy banging on my door, just trying to start a business. So it's literally that. And you walk in, they just charge you enormous fees. They're not really, they have no leeway. And everyone gets bundled because that's the only resource.
So are all the loans under $1,000? Is that the number?
$1,000 or less, you have to repay it in 6 months or less.
Why did you pick that number?
Well, there's 5 reasons really. Like one, that's our backer threshold. So we did a lot of asking. Like I'm the kind of guy that just asks questions. So we're a double-sided marketplace. All of the even credit credit card volume, like all of the loans that people seem to be in this like $1,000 or less space, like that everyday sort of just need a little boost or help paying rent or bills or Christmas time's coming around or in-laws are coming in or bail money, or I need to renew my license. I mean, it all sort of fits in this $1,000 or less, but also we connect people to people. And so generally, if you guys are lending money, man, like I got a risk threshold. Like I loan somebody $400, but I'm not just gonna take a chance on 4,000. So it seems to be like this perfect, just kind of small dollar marketplace. And also, we really wanted to cap it at the 6 months. If you take out a loan, if you really need a loan, you need to be able to affordably pay it back in 6 months or less. So those are kind of the biggest two reasons.
Yeah, and going back to the origin story a little bit, like when you said that guy reached out, and you have to be kind of vulnerable to ask for money. And I think I saw on the website that it's anonymous whenever you request money on this. Is that right? Is that kind of how it works?
Safety. So the reason I think this is picking up so fast is that people finally feel safe. The anonymity is big for that reason, just because it cuts out the vulnerability, especially in our community model, which I'll really dive into here in a second. But also, we remove names, we remove age, we remove race. I mean, there's a lot of biases that everyone knows about in finance.
Yeah. Go into that community thing, because I really want to hear about that, because there's maybe something I was going to mention.
Yeah, I mean, that's the revolution, dude. So like people to people lending, I've always felt was like the future, just because like it's the natural progression of finance. And the world's so imbalanced, you really just have to like educate people to like bring that balance to fruition. So we did people to people lending all 2020. We killed it, we crushed it. Like just in Indiana, we were lending money, back and forth, about $200,000 in loans in about 6 months. But it's tough to scale. And I mean, like marketplaces really require, as we've seen, the Uber kind of cash kind of investment model. And it's not realistic for Black founders at all, which just honestly, so we were trying to just be really smart. And so also Indiana, the Midwest in general, is really B2B heavy. They hate B2C companies, like consumer product. That was kind of like the vibe whenever I jumped on a call, I'm high energy, let's pitch. And they'd say, I wish you were just like a B2B solution. And so we kind of tested it. We reached out to like pastors and like big nonprofit players and just said like, hey, this is our product. Can you advocate? And they were like, I love this, man. Definitely. I'll post it. So that was a majority of our traction, just like having these big players advocate. But we started seeing like, well, how do I see just like the members of my church? Is there a way to filter it? Or, like how do I know it's just, we were big in the domestic violence space because a lot of these centers need to have a turnkey solution. Like they provide food services and train tickets and this, but they don't have like, anything for money. So they send you to Chase next. And like, usually like that extra 30 minutes is terrifying and all sorts of things can happen. So they wanted to see like their members. And I, after our app broke, longer story, end of 2020, we really went face forward into like, we need financing and like, we need to roll out this community product so we can build private lending communities where people can create a password, share it, and only see the people that have that particular password. And so that's why, that's the revolution. So now we can partner with any church, any nonprofit, this podcast, just anybody that wants to build financial community can build it. And if someone requests a loan, up to 1,000, families are growing, like grandmas launch codes and share it with their nieces and nephews and grandchildren. But anyone that wants to build financial community can and enable it through a password and share it. We're learning how that share process grows. It's kind of our last hurdle, but anyone can build a code and share it and build their own private people-to-people lending community.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely brilliant. Like that was the idea I was going to want to talk about is the next evolution, because I didn't know that you started to work on it, is why don't you plug into communities that are already about giving back? Because I mean, to me, if I'm somebody that goes through this, and I don't know the other person, it's almost like on my side, what do I get the benefit for? Because a lot of people like the tangible feeling of how they're helping. So if it's me giving to Trey, no idea who he is, no name, here's $1,000, I'm expecting that return. If you transfer this over to communities that are like-minded people trying to help others, like churches or any other type of non-for-profit like that, it's like, well, I know that person, they're a part of this community, I care about them. Maybe I'm going to give them 0 interest loans or really low interest loans, knowing who they are and the impact that I can make, and I can feel that. So now you have like, still it can be a good investment for you short term. And then you also have the purpose side of it. And I'm feeling like I'm giving back. Like that's a really powerful mission to get people a part of.
Exactly, Thomas. I mean, like that is, you know, that's the joy of kind of this whole thing. Like we were trying to build it so that the everyday person can feel safe as like a backer, and that's the 35% limit. We were just trying to balance the risk and like make it a viable investment. And so that the averages were about, 20% when we rolled it out completely peer-to-peer across the country. And that average, man, has like marched down. Like we have active communities that are like in our last product rollout, actually, 2 weeks ago, we wrote a feature that allowed communities to set an interest cap. When they build their community, they can also set a cap. So any backer, the sliding bar only goes to it just to walk through kind of the product too. Mm-hmm. Borrowers request a loan like Cash App. They set how long they need. We have a couple pages of a scoring system. We built our own underwriting, and then the loan goes out. Backers, they can search for loans, select a loan, we adjust their score and how much they need, and then we have a scoring bar.
How do you create the safety side? So, hey, I agree, I'm going to take 1,000, I'm going to pay you back at 20% interest. Like, what stops me from just disappearing?
Man, that has been like our golden question, and we've tried to oversolve that a little bit. Like we built a scoring system. A lot of this market we serve, doesn't credit unscorable or credit, I call it not cared for. Like I don't care, man. If I'm not gonna be able to use my credit, all it does is make me sad. So I'm not getting a car loan or a mortgage loan. So what do I need credit for? And I'm not getting a credit card. So we built our own underwriting system. That took 2.5 years. That was like the big thing. Mm-hmm. Second thing was like trust. We spent 30 minutes on a call with every single user. It wasn't scalable, maybe, maybe not, but it felt good. And like people tried to take care of it, like to the best of their ability.
Yeah.
We have automated repayments. I mean, that's the big thing. Like today, we use ACH. It takes a little longer, but we do automated repayments. So every 2 weeks, if the borrower chooses 8 weeks, every 2 weeks for 4 times, or ACH reaches pulls the installment amount and repays it. And now with the community model, I mean, there's tons of stuff we can do. Like literally, we had a pastor post in their programs like, "Hey, 3 people are off track. What's going on? Like, we need this tool." And I just thought it was cool because it's very human and it works, right? Like
there's that reinforcement there. I really like that. So if I'm a lender and that person chooses to not pay me back, am I liable, or are you guys as the company? Like, am I just out?
Yep, at risk investment.
Okay. Have you guys like implemented any like strike rules or something? Like, hey, this person comes in, like it's kind of like a 1 strike rule. If you default on these, you don't come back as a user or anything?
Yeah, 1 time and you're out. But it's a little bit different language too. Like one thing we tried was the jargon stealing. Like, "Hey, dude, did you mean to steal?" And they're like, "I didn't steal from anybody." I said, "Well, you owe 300, you only paid 120. Well, hold on, let me jump in the app." So like just using some more of that language too.
Instead of defaulting on debt, it's stealing.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's another person. Hard. Like that human stuff is what we're really trying to just, and we're still testing everything, right? So like everything's still sort of variable, but we're learning like specifically that people react differently when it's not Chase. Because like it's like a student loan. Like, I don't care. You don't care about me. You got $1 billion. No, it's Thomas, right? You know what I'm saying? Like it's not a $1 billion entity. Like it's another human being that could be your exact same profile, and it's just like March instead of September. So
I wonder if in the future, is there a way, and I don't know like the laws around this, to be honest, but like, is there a way that as the community, so we have a church, that community is 501(c), is there a way that this can, like these people's need can go through that company or that the nonprofit, so then me as a giver could be like, I'm finding people and just giving that money away, but then it still counts as a write-off?
Working on it. So Alicia, our COO and CTO at the moment, is working on a product feature to allow that. We do heavy Christmas campaigns or holiday campaigns. So we're trying to have it by then. Also, we have a nonprofit partner, Kindness to One Another. And literally in our partnership, they raise money to help people get back on track. So, I mean, there's a lot of, if you see our logo, it's the infinity symbol. There's a lot of, symmetry and fluidity in like our partnerships with nonprofits and, for example, kindness to one another, that just like, hey, you still owe $48. I know you tried. Let's take care of it for you. Or, if a nonprofit just wants to donate money to this mission, like like there's $4 billion in loans every year given out, and payday loans, not a huge number in the finance department. It's $10 billion charged every year in fees.
Yeah.
Let's wipe it out. I mean, why not? We have the platform to do it.
That makes sense. Have you thought about adding in for users free financial classes inside the app?
That'd be cool.
Yeah, man, I'd love help with that if you have some. We're looking for partners. That's something that we don't want to do right now. Like, we just want to be good at what we're good at. But like, every single person's asking us for this suite of services, which is exciting because like, we have a clear kind of pathway to even greater business. But I see that as an obvious, like, let's find a partner that we can. We also don't want people to stay in debt. Like, we want to churn borrowers. So
Yeah.
like, that would align with like our mission, budgeting tools, et cetera.
I think not to like too, because it's kind of a little out of context, but like the AGC is called the Advisor Growth Community. It's like there's almost 200 advisors in there, and they've done something similar to help create free education for people. If that's like a place you want to go, I guarantee we could get tons of advisors to each teach like one topic to help build out this app as like an active service. Like, they're all about that. So if you want to go down that route, definitely hit us up, because we'd really want to help you build that out, because I think that would be such a great value add for those people who are already admitting to be in need. Like, hey, as part of this, like, you paid off the loan. Like, maybe it's only, hey, I paid off my loan. I've proven to fulfill this role. Now we're going to give you free education because you've been one of our like credible people in this service. I think that'd be sweet.
And maybe they get like a little credit or something for every course that they complete or something like that. Like, there's so many cool things you could do with that. That's awesome. I love it.
I mean, that's why we have to be in the trust game. Like, we, our big, like, what is your company to be the most trusted company? I know it sounds goof, but like, if backers trust it, it's over. There's no other place that can get, somebody that's homeless and Bill Gates in the same platform. It's like, literally. So like, we want to be the most trusted platform, and part of that trust is like, once you trust us with a flat tire, you should continue to trust us moving forward. Like becoming a backer, like doing educational resources, like believing in the partnerships, like having aligned partners, that make sense for like what we're doing. So yes, please, if you would, let's connect. And
for sure. Yeah, I think it is also interesting too, because in the beginning I was like, well, as an investor or a lender, it's kind of frustrating that I can only do $1,000, but you basically can do $1,000 per loan and diversify out to, just it's diversification, your diversification of loans you're letting out. There's nothing to say I couldn't give $21,000 loans. Yep. And that'd be a really good opportunity of getting a little bit of growth somewhere while also giving back.
And can the lender choose like what the interest rate is? Like, if I wanted to just give someone 1,000 at 0%, is that possible, or is it just set at like a 5%, 10%, whatever?
Freedom lives here, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, literally, freedom, trust, like those two things are recurring. You can go in there and you can charge anywhere from 0 to 35%. Cool part about backing is like, our average backer comes in. Average loan is about $500, but they do 3 loans, so it's about $1,500 on the first round. And we're just now seeing some more, some more reoccurring backers that come in and reinvest on the platform. So we'll have some more sound data there, but they come in the back 3 loans, but you can also like choose, right? Like, we just launched another survivor community. Maybe you want to back churches in a certain, geography. Maybe you want to just like just launched a music community, that's like musicians backing musicians. Like, maybe that's your space. So not only can you like choose your financial return, you can kind of choose your, I wouldn't say cause, but just like, what pie of humanity do you want to like support today, or balance today, right? I mean, everyone's imbalanced. Like, the music industry is imbalanced, right? Your business, we're working on a couple business relationships. We see all this data. I mean, you think about McDonald's and Walmart and Amazon's, like, man, that's the most imbalanced thing in the world. Jeff, why don't you have $5 million, man, to like make sure that your employees aren't using this like awful service, And also, Jeff, if someone doesn't pay you back, where's the company email? Like, hey, I will no longer support, this program if like this happens. But like you have all these execs, and then you have, people working, they're making $12,000 and just in these awful working environments. And then when something happens to them, they get beat up even more. And that's when you see all the bad stuff, man, like crime, dropout, divorce, just mental health issues in these communities.
Yeah.
Gets all
Yep.
the elements.
And do you have to be a part of like each community to be able to be a lender in it? Because that was a part that I kind of had a question on. So like if Thomas's church was doing that and I wasn't a part of it, could I still lend to people asking for money within that, or do you have to be in each community?
We allow the communities when they launch, they choose public or private. If they're private, just want that economy to exist inside. Like, or instance, we just launched a daycare, and they were like, "Well, I got 12 families. I know half of them need money right now, so I can put up to $3,000 or $4,000." But if you want to be a public community, if any backer asks for more opportunities, then we can send them all of the public. We usually jump on a 5-minute call and say like, "Hey, what kind of stuff do you want to support?" Well, if it's that space, here's 8 codes that I just emailed to you. Type them in, and you'll be able to see them.
That's awesome. That's super cool. I think like kind of to wrap up, something that I feel like I have to bring up is this seems just like a perfect DeFi play, like build on smart contracts. And you already talked about a little bit of the problems with ACH, which can be solved potentially in the future with a better payment system. Like, do you guys see that as a future evolution, is building this into being a DeFi product?
Absolutely. Even down to, we're already defining the credit system. I mean, in so many ways, like down to like community credit. That's, we have 800 data points on like every member of a community that they can access or partners can access. But absolutely, I mean, yes, we're staying focused in this space, but there's so many evolutions. Like, can we get some giving dollars to tackle this like awful industry? Then like, how can we literally take those same dollars and like tackle the credit card industry? And then like, yes, how can we take those? I mean, just it begins to rain. So yeah, again, I'm pocketed just for like this next quarter, but we're definitely going to swing it at everything. We want to be the trust in the human player in all of finance is the total goal.
Super cool. I love the idea. Anything that you want to say before we wrap up?
No, just thank you for the opportunity to share. If this is a backer heavy community, literally, reach out to us, and you can reach out to me directly at Taylor at the Halo app, and I'll get you set up. It's a wonderful feeling. It's the best feeling in the world to support somebody, to save a life. You can hear some audios of like what you're actually doing, even though it's anonymous. We do have borrowers that are willing to share their story and the impact that this made. So if you do, feel in your heart or in your wallet that you want to be a backer, it's both. It's good for both. There's definitely altruism, but there's definitely, financial return, and there is risk. But reach out to us and we'll get you set up. But thank you for the opportunity to share.
For sure, man. Thanks for coming on, Sharon. I just think this is such a cool product idea of a mix of like a good way to give out money while also having purpose and also like making an impact. And I think so many people talk about, oh, I really want to give back and help the people who need the most help. But most people start there and then they get right out of that space into somewhere else. And I think it's cool that you guys are staying focused and really building and helping these communities. So thanks for what you do, man. We're going to share this and we'll talk offline a little bit about helping on that education side. And thank you everybody for listening. We'll see you back next week.
Thank you. Appreciate it.